The Oklahoma City Thunder fall late to the Boston Celtics as SGA has another phenomenal game, but the Thunder just could not quite close the door on this game. However, things are starting to turn for Lou Dort for the better, and Aleksej Pokusevsky is here. He has broken out and he has popped in year 3 of his NBA career. We'll talk about that coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at ThunderousIntentions.com, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by BetterHelp, we are going to dive into the Oklahoma City Thunder losing to the Boston Celtics on the second night of a back-to-back as SGA dazzles. Pokusevsky puts together the best game of his career and really just shows what he can be moving forward. J-Dub has a coming-out party in Boston, and Lou Dort continues to have the season turn for the better for him in these last few games. But today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. What a game. Let's start with our game overview. Chet Holmgren out, Darius Bazley out, Trey Mann was out. Remember, he had that back injury in the New York game on Sunday morning. Back soreness, back spasms held him out of the game on Monday against Boston. Eugene Omoruyi was down in the G League with Ousmane Dieng. They both were down there playing Team Ignite on Monday. They'll play them again on Wednesday morning. And then Mike Muscala and Lindy Waters, both out, but not officially. They were DNP coach's decisions. Just Mark did not get them in the game, but they were suited up. The Thunder starting lineup: SGA, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara, and Aleksej Pokusevsky were actually the 9th different starting lineup this season, and also the 5 most minute getters for OKC. So that actually matches up in this game, which typically doesn't happen. Typically, there's some sort of variation between the starters and who had the 5 most minutes. Not the case tonight. The starters did play the 5 most minutes: SGA, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, J-Dub, and Aleksej Pokusevsky. There are 2 huge storylines from this one that start with SGA. SGA plays 35 minutes, scores 37 points, has a block, 2 steals, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, and he was just phenomenal. Just like you are phenomenal for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode. And on YouTube, we have a Scoot Henderson interview on YouTube from after last night's game, Ignite versus the Blue. Now, SGA goes 9 for 9 at the free throw line, 2 for 4 from 3, shot 50% from the floor. He said after the game to Nick Allo and to the media that were there in Boston, he said, "I think that we are a better basketball team and better individuals across the board. I think that we've done a great job in the summertime working on our games and getting better. We are seeing it this season." Once again, it's him acknowledging that this team has a plan, is going in the right direction, is turning a corner. All those different words and descriptors, all those things that you want to hear from a face of your franchise, from a franchise leader, and somebody that does not sound publicly disgruntled at all, despite the way that the national media tries to portray this situation in Oklahoma City. The national media, even last week, The Athletic had an article saying, from an anonymous GM that SGA could be frustrated. We've heard none of that in Oklahoma City. We've seen none of that in Oklahoma City. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. We've seen a player in SGA who has embraced being in Oklahoma City, being the face of this franchise, and helping the Thunder get over the hump and be a part of the next wave of players in Oklahoma City. But in this game specifically, SGA showed you his all-NBA superstar power. We've been talking about SGA in all-star terms. It's really time to flip that script and flip that page to all-NBA terms. That's a massive jump to do that before he's officially played in an all-star game. I get that. But the stuff we're seeing this season is that of a top 15 player in the NBA. Is that of an MVP candidate. We'll see if this can be sustainable, and it looks like it will be. But one of those big tests of sustainability is SGA doing it in back-to-back games. Going from 11 a.m. against New York to 6:30 p.m. the next night against Boston. 2 road games, back-to-back days. How do you handle that? How do you handle facing that? And SGA stood tall, and SGA looked like the absolute truth as a superstar player, as a face of your franchise player, as a top 15 in the NBA player. The way that he dominates the paint as a guard should not be normalized. And I feel like it's becoming normal for us that watch it night in and night out and watch it every single night for us to be like, oh, that's just how SGA scores. That's just how SGA does it. This is not normal. This is not how guys of his size are supposed to score. When you look at his points in the paint per game, it is rivaling stuff that we've only seen from Zion, from Shaq, from all the Giannis, from all these elite big men. Guards are not on that list the way that SGA is. So it's just incredible to see the different ways that he is able to score. The tough bucket making is what is so fascinating to me. It's because he's getting 37 points. He's getting 30 points a night. And he's having to make extremely difficult shots. He's having to make extremely tough looks where when you start to see the team shoot better, as they have been these last few games, when you add in Chet Holmgren, as you will next year, when you trade for a piece here and there, as you will in the future, those tough looks get less and less because they've got to guard his teammates and they've got to disperse. They can't have 4 guys collapsing on the paint every time that SGA touches the basketball. They can't have their entire team with a foot in the paint whenever SGA is driving. Once you fill out this roster and this roster grows into their own as NBA players and become more respected in the scouting report, once that happens, then SGA, what can he ascend to whenever the defense is not allowed to give him that much attention? Or whenever the defenses do give him that much more attention and he's kicking out to guys that can knock down the shot because he believes in them. He believes that these are the guys that can knock down those shots. They just need the opportunity. They just need the experience. They just need to be able to grow and develop in their own right. Whenever that does happen, however it may happen, how much better can SGA be with a flushed out roster around him? Whether that be the guys physically on this roster already just taking that next step, whether that be improving the roster via trades or signings or draft picks. However it happens, however you want to describe it, when this team just grows together and gets better, what does that mean for SGA? It's not going to go backwards. It can only go forward. The question is, how much more forward can it go as we see SGA play at this just insane clip, just this insane level? I mean, Kyle Kuzma, who the Thunder will play tomorrow with the Wizards, he calls SGA a top 5 guard in the NBA right now. Top 5 guard in the NBA right now. Those are his peers that are saying these things. JJ Redick, he had on Therese Halliburton on his podcast over the weekend. Said the same thing. Underrated player, great guard, one of the best guards in the NBA. Like, it is picking up recognition both locally, nationally, and within the walls of the NBA. And so I think that it should not be taken lightly just how good SGA is, and we should keep in mind he hasn't even entered his peak yet. This is not going to be his peak. He still has room to grow, and growing can be twofold. It can be both him growing as he's only 24 years old right now and won't be 25 until the summertime, and will then start to enter his physical peak. It could be that, but it can also be just growth from the team around him, because you've seen these last few games, things have started to look a little bit easier for him as the team is shooting better from 3. Obviously, they shot like 50% from three on Sunday. That's not going to continue itself no matter what you build. Like no team in the NBA can sustain 50% from three. But just getting better than what they had been this rest of the season where it's down in the low 30s, that stuff will help SGA a tremendous amount. And I would say right now that this show is brought to you by SweatBlock. Folks, we all sweat. And some of us sweat more than others. Some of us have a sweating problem. And living in Oklahoma where it's mainly hot year-round, and then when it's not hot, you're going to walk into a building that just has a blazing heater on because we can't stand the cold in Oklahoma, you're going to find yourself sweating quite a bit. So in order to avoid those sweaty palms or that shiny forehead or the sweat stains in your suit or whatever the case is, make sure you check out SweatBlock. SweatBlock has these wipes where you just wipe it on and you enjoy the dryness guarantee for weeks at a time even. So make sure that if you're experiencing this embarrassment with sweat or odor, try SweatBlock risk-free today. Save 20% with a promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. That's saving 20% at sweatblock.com with code LOCKEDON. Also available at Amazon. So make sure you check it out with SweatBlock. That can save you from the embarrassing sweat, whether that be just physically on your body or in your stains in your clothes, whatever the case is. Check it out today with SweatBlock. They are going to be here to help you out. Also, check out RocketMoney, formerly known as Truebill, but it's the same great concept with a new name. So what RocketMoney can do for you is that, let's say you have an unwanted subscription. We all have those, right? We all sign up for a free trial, then forget to hit turn off auto renew. We always do that, right? At least I do. I run into that problem all the time where I want to try a free trial. I try it out, don't really love it, don't really want to buy it fully, don't really want to subscribe to it fully. I just wanted to read one article. I just wanted to try one sample over here. I didn't want to get the whole shebang. What Truebill could do, which is now known as RocketMoney, is that you can plug in all your subscriptions and then you can tell them which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to cancel, and then they're going to go cancel it for you. That way you're not wasting your time in dealing with the hassle of getting on the phone, dealing with robots, trying to find a real person, trying to backtrack and find your way to cancel the auto renew, and they can just take care of you and clean up your billfold, clean up your bank account over there at RocketMoney. So check it out today. That is RocketMoney. It's free. It is going to be able to be downloaded for you. RocketMoney. Check them out today. That is RocketMoney for you. Promo code LOCKEDON. Make sure you check them out today. We are back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into this game against Boston, but I want to thank you so much for making Lockdown Thunder your first listen every single morning. Every single day, we're here for you talking Thunder basketball. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. It is going to take you behind the scenes and beyond the box score of every national story with our local experts that only Locked On can provide you. Check them out today, Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcast from. Pokusevsky deserves a ton of credit, folks. Right before our eyes, Aleksej Pokusevsky is becoming an actual NBA player that is popping. There are people nationally no longer treating Pokusevsky as a meme or as a joke. They're treating him as somebody who is popping from that 2020 NBA draft class. It has not yet been 2 years since the date of his draft. Because remember, folks, he was drafted in November. I believe it was around November 17th or 18th or something like that, or 16th was the day that he was drafted. Remember, even though he's in year 3, he's only 20 years old. And it's been now 3 seasons of NBA basketball, but they haven't been real seasons. They've been truncated off seasons and weird scheduling quirks and everything else. Aleksej Pokusevsky is finding his stride. He played in 37 minutes in this game, scoring 16 points, grabbing 14 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block. He went 2 for 4 from 3, which he had that one miss as time expired before half, had to shoot that one. So you can even make this, if you want to do some mental gymnastics, make this 2 for 3 from 3. He shot 58% from the floor, and he is just so much better at standing in down low, walling up at the rim, and just absorbing contact. He was defending Al Horford, and Mark had the quote of the night. After the game, Mark said that if you would have told him 2 years ago that Aleksej Pokusevski would be defending Al Horford for 30 minutes, he would have asked for a sobriety test. That's how far Pokusevski's come. Had a putback dunk, a crafty coast-to-coast layup around Grant Williams. He has a beautiful step-through, by the way, and had this work to perfection through and around Jaylen Brown, a really good defender for the Celtics, and, of course, a two-way all-star for the Celtics. He just had so many incredible moments that in this game, it felt like everything was clicking, and it felt like he can be an actual important piece of your rotation. Now, I don't know what the ceiling is. I don't know what you want to place on Poku. Like, do you want to place him as a starting level player? Me personally, I would say that I feel confident projecting him to be a 7th, 8th man in your rotation where he's still very vital, still very important, and still very impactful to winning. But I don't think that he's going to be an every game starter, more of like a swing starter, like a matchup to matchup type of thing. Once this roster is fully ready to go and it's all sights set on winning a championship. But that's still a really good role for him. It's still really a great improvement from what we've seen from him over these last few years. So Pokusevski deserves a ton of credit, and give Mark a lot of credit. Mark, before the season, he was telling you that, if you erased everything you thought you knew about Poku from the last 2 years, and you observed him this year as an independent person, right? As somebody who, you've never seen before, and give him a fair shot, he's going to impress you. He's going to look totally different, and he has. He has looked absolutely totally different. J-Dub, Jalen Williams of Santa Clara. What a game from him. 34 minutes, 36 minutes even in this game. 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, 2 for 5 from 3. Shot 66% from the floor. He played really good defense. And what impressed me the most this game was the way that he was able to score off the dribble. Really good job from him scoring off the dribble at the elbow. He also had a pull-up 3 as well. Great baseline cut dunk from SGA on the feed. Had a great catch and shoot 3 from SGA on the drive and kick. He made a ton of great decisions, and that's the biggest thing. As a rookie, his decision-making is elite level for a rookie. He makes a winning impact, which is very difficult for a rookie to do. He had a relocation 3 where he originally started out in the dunker spot, then made his way back around to, I want to say around the break of the three-point line, and nailed that shot in a tough finish through Jaylen Brown. Like, the ways that he is able to score and the ways that he is able to impact the game offensively are able to be duplicated. It's just great cutting. It's just great location. It's just savvy, kind of savvy moves that he pulls off, and cuts and great passes that he has when the ball's in his hand. Like, the way that he impacts the game is no fluke, and is able to be duplicated pretty easily. And so that's why I'm so high on J-Dub. Everything that he does, none of it is a fluke. None of it is something that you just wonder, how long can this go for? Like, it's just everyday stuff that he makes look easy. But of course, in fact, it's incredibly hard. But J-Dub deserves the ton of credit. He's a 3-level scorer that can play make and that can play defense. And as I've been saying on this podcast for the last month or two, give yourself the ability to go all in on J-Dub, because I know that, he's technically the 3rd draft pick for the Thunder in the first round. This guy was still picked 12th overall. This guy's still supposed to be in that position in the draft, still has that hope that they'll be an all-star type of player. I think that J-Dub will be an all-star eventually in his career. Like, I think he's that good. And I think that these coming out players that you're seeing in Boston will eventually lead to success and eventually lead to that kind of being less of a hot take. Aaron Wiggins also played well. A huge spark defensively. Had a massive putback slam that I just could not believe my eyes whenever I saw it. 3 rebounds, an assist, 4 points in just 13 minutes of action. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl also only played 13 minutes, but he had 4 points and 4 rebounds and helped the team out a great bit. When we come back, let's talk about Lou Dort and let's talk about Josh Giddey, plus how the Thunder lost this game down the stretch. But first, I want to tell you that this podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's our good friends over at PrizePicks. You're going to want to check them out today. What PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. So check them out today by downloading the app or going to PrizePicks.com. It's totally free. 100% deposit match up to $100 whenever on your first deposit, whenever you use the code Locked On. That's promo code Locked On for 100% deposit match up to $100. And the biggest thing about PrizePicks is it's just you versus the projected numbers. And that's why I enjoy it so much. I don't have to worry about going up against a fantasy pro. All I got to worry about is the projected numbers. So, for example, Wednesday against Washington, let's say if they set the line at 25.5 points per game for SGA. Let's say that he has 25.5 for points. And all I got to do is watch the game, Thunder Wizards, and then bet. Do I think that SGA will have over or under 25 points? And if he has 26 points, I win. If he has 24 points, I lose if I bet the over. And so that's going to be the kind of betting and fantasy stuff that I like for daily fantasy. So check it out today and see if you like it as well by downloading the app or go to PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com, 100% instant deposit match guarantee up to $100. Promo code Locked On. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. Lou Dort had another great game, 35 minutes, 3 fouls, one, which is a phantom foul. I don't really like the foul on him on the Tatum three-pointer, but still he had 3 fouls, which is down a bit from where he was hovering at 4 or 5 a game for a long time. He scored 21 points, 5 rebounds, and assist. Here's the big kicker. This was a good game from Lou Dort. Like, he shot 3 for 7 from 3, which is 42%, and you take that with the defense that he gives you. He has now built 3 good games, and at worst, if you wanted to be as heavily critical as possible, you have to at least call this game against Boston a solid game. I would call it a good game. You got to at least call it a solid game. Against Toronto, he was great. Against New York, he was good. Mush all that together, and you've got really good performances from him the last 3 games, even last 4 games after that horrendous first 10 games. And Lou Dort looks the part. It's like I said, he didn't just forget how to play basketball. It was just a very tough stretch, and we're seeing that now come to fruition. I think over the last 4 games of the season for him, if you only take the 4 games, as I mentioned last week, lopping off every game after Detroit and just looking forward, after Milwaukee, looking forward. If you look at the last 4 games, Lou Dort is shooting 42% from 3. Like, that is what you want to see him do, plus play his great defense. So Lou Dort has done a good job of turning the corner a bit, but of course we still got to see it over a longer stretch than just these 4 games. Josh Giddey, I think the biggest thing that stood out for him was his shot chart. We'll get to that. He had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. He went 1 for 6 from 3. 1 3 was a floater at the buzzer, and 1 was a heave for the shot clock where he got blocked. So you take those away, and now he's at 1 for 4 from 3, which is just feels a lot better. But the shot chart thing, he took 6 threes, he took 10 shots in the paint, and 1 mid-range. So it was just basically all threes in the paint, because that 1 mid-range was like this runner at the final buzzer in the 4th quarter when the game was already over and in hand. So like really, it was just the threes and the paint shots. And that's kind of where I think that Josh Giddey will settle into for his NBA career. Will be a guy that is just going to try to dominate you down low with those floaters and those strong layups down low on the low block and in the paint, and then see if that 3-point shot can come around. And then other than that, he's facilitating, he's rebounding, he's creating possessions, he's doing that dirty work in between. So it was interesting to see kind of how his shot chart just kind of took fold today. But the Thunder lose 126-122. OKC once led by 15 points. Boston once led by 6 points. There were 6 lead changes and 8 times being tied. And this was a classic case. If you ever wonder what I mean whenever I say, look, this team is going to be good, they're going to be much improved, but wins-loss-wise, then you're looking at young teams typically not closing games well and typically needing to grow and learn in these moments to get over the hump in the future. Case in point right here. This was a game where the Thunder played really well. They looked much improved from where they had been this season, where they had been last season, where they had been the season before that. They looked much improved. They just could not quite finish the job, and they got a little bit rattled down the stretch. They're playing in a hostile environment in the second game of back-to-back against a really good Boston team. And they just kind of faltered in the end, but it was still a lot of positives to take away from this game, and this was the case of young teams not closing well to start their careers because they got to learn. They've got to learn how to close games and how to win these games in these moments. And the next time they get in this situation, they'll be much more well-equipped to handle it. But 6 lead changes, 8 times tied. The Thunder won the rebounding battle 51-46, but they lost the turnover battle uncharacteristically 19-14. OKC shot 48% from the floor, 36% from 3, and 81% at the line. That's kind of where you want these marks to be at for OKC. The free throws have been typically around 71% the last couple of games. You want that improved. It was. The three-point shot, you obviously want to improve. It has been, to this point, 36% on this game. And then 48% from the floor. That's good enough. OKC lost points in the paint 64-56. They won second chance points 31-11 and lost fast break points 24-17, which is usually an indicator of how the game goes for OKC. The bet of the day at OKC plus 12, that cashed in. MVP of the game, it's of course SGA. SGA was phenomenal in this game and deserves to be MVP. Now, Wednesday, we're going to answer your questions, your mailbag questions. So drop them below if you have any right now on YouTube or on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. On Thursday, we're going to recap that game against Washington. On Friday, we're going to talk about Scoot Henderson and G League Ignite and the NBA draft, because we got to see Scoot by Friday twice in OKC, which was a lot of fun. And I'll play you that interview with Scoot after the game from each Blue game, which will be a lot of fun as well. So make sure you subscribe across all platforms, including on YouTube, and make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.